Hello, and welcome to Spooky Tales with Isaac Blood, the Halloween special. Simply named because I'm Isaac Blood, I tell spooky tales, and it's Halloween. Are you ready? Let's get really spooky. Happy Halloween! So today being a very special day, I thought I would tell you a spookier tale than just the average spooky tale. A spookier spooky tale. The spookiest spooky tale. The mother of all spooky tales. The spooky tale to end all spooky tales. The spooky... Okay, I'm going off topic here. It's a very spooky tale. Okay. This is a tale of Mr. Badder. Wow, what a frightening name. That's so frightening, I'm going to say it again. Mr. Badder. Okay, it's losing effect now. Moving on. The year was 1975, and a young couple, Barbara and Keith Galloway, were living in a small flat on East Parade in the spa town of Harrogate. Keith worked night shifts, which meant Barbara was quite often home alone. She was reading a book one night, when suddenly she heard a knocking sound coming from somewhere inside the flat. Barbara searched each room in an attempt to establish what the noise was and where it was coming from. Unfortunately, this was to no avail. The knocking stopped, and then it started again. The sound of the knocking started to get louder and louder, as though a door was being violently banged. Barbara arrived just outside her bathroom, swung the door open, expecting to find someone on the other side, but there was no one there. The knocking sound would occur on certain nights when Barbara was alone in the flat, and she could not for the life of her explain what it was. Not long after the knocking incidents started occurring, Barbara became pregnant with her daughter, Lucy. To no surprise, Barbara didn't like living in the flat, and it wasn't a home where she wanted to raise her baby girl. So the family moved to Newby Crescent in Jennyfields on the outskirts of town. The belongings that they took with them included Barbara's mother's dresser, a crystal decanter that was given to Barbara and Keith as a first anniversary gift, an old mirror they purchased at a charity shop, and their wedding album. Lucy was 2 years old when she started to speak. It was around this time her parents could hear her having conversations in her room, night after night, with, presumably, an imaginary friend. Oh, but this was not an imaginary friend. It was a ghost. Obviously. Lucy was starting to get a little bit scared of this ghost, and she decided to tell her mother and father about him. She described him as a bearded man wearing a tall top hat and Victorian cloak. Classic! And she called him Mr. Badder. Chills! Lucy had a vivid imagination for a girl of her age, so it was only natural for her parents to assume that she would come up with a clever name and description of her imaginary friend. Over the next few months, Lucy started to get more and more frightened of Mr. Badder, and it was having a detrimental impact on her sleeping. Not only that, she eventually began refusing to eat. Seriously worried about Lucy's health, her parents took her to see a doctor. Interestingly, the doctor said it was quite peculiar for a 2-year-old to be so descriptive of an imaginary friend. He suggested going to a spiritualist church. Now that's a bit of an odd prescription from a doctor, I think we can all agree. Barbara and Keith rejected the doctor's advice and just hoped things would get better for Lucy. Alas, things did not get better. On the contrary, they got worse. One evening over summer, Barbara was doing the washing up downstairs, when all of a sudden she could hear screaming coming from upstairs. She rushed upstairs to Lucy's room, opened the door, and was hit with a blast of icy cold air. Did I mention it was summer? Lucy was curled up in a ball, crying, saying that Mr. Badder was just with her. She did not like him, and she wanted him to leave. From then on, Lucy's parents allowed her to sleep in their room, although to be honest, she wasn't getting much sleep even then. Out of the blue one day, Keith suggested getting in touch with David Fox. David Fox was a window cleaner and old family friend. Now let's just say David was a uniquely gifted chap. He had the ability to see and feel things that others could not. Not only that, he was a very decent man who never used his gifts for attention or to make money from people. It was something he was rather discreet about. Barbara rang David's number and thought long and hard about what she was going to say when he picked up. This turned out to be a pointless exercise because when David did pick up the phone, it was he who spoke first. "I know what you're ringing for," he said. "Lucy has a visitor." Barbara asked him how he knew, and he replied, "I just know. I know she's got a visitor, and I don't think it's a very good visitor." So, the following day, David came round to the house and stayed the night to find out what the situation was. He asked Lucy's parents not to give him any details because he wanted to investigate in his own way. That night, David, Barbara and Keith heard Lucy screaming in her room. David ran upstairs, entered Lucy's room, and sure enough, he saw a bearded man wearing Victorian clothing and a top hat sitting by Lucy's bedside. As her parents entered the room, they were just able to catch sight of him before he disappeared. That same night, while Lucy was fast asleep, the three adults stood in the kitchen holding hands while David asked the spirit to leave. There was no such luck, as this spirit was stronger than any presence David had ever felt before. He could not help them. They were on their own. A few days later, Barbara was in the living room doing the ironing when Lucy said that Mr. Badder was in the room with them. Barbara said that there was no one there, and Lucy replied, "Yes, there is. He's right behind you. He's going..." He's a strange one, that Mr. Badder. Weeks went by, and Lucy's parents asked a neighbour to babysit Lucy while they went to the local working men's club for a drink. When they arrived home, they were shocked to find their neighbour in tears, saying that she was never going to babysit for them again. She refused to explain why, but Barbara and Keith believed it was because of Mr. Badder. At this point, the spiritualist church didn't seem like such a bad idea. After Barbara and Keith told them the full story, the church told them that they had a malevolent spirit in their house, and the only way to get rid of it would be for a specialist priest to perform an exorcism. Interesting. It was not a normal solution for a situation, but nor was it a normal situation, so they took them up on the offer. Unexpectedly, the day before the priest was supposed to arrive, they received a phone call from the spiritualist church saying that the priest who was qualified to perform the exorcism had sadly died. They were on their own again. One day, Keith decided to redecorate Lucy's room to try and cheer her up. After pulling out the wardrobe to paint the wall, he discovered the old mirror hidden behind it, the same one that they brought with them from the old flat on East Parade. The mirror was originally part of a Victorian wardrobe, it had no frame and wasn't generally appealing, so Keith decided to take it to the tip. When he threw it in the tip, and boy did he throw it, it remained in one piece. Curiouser and curiouser. But what's even curiouser is that from that moment on, they never saw Mr. Badder again. Not a peep, not a whisper. Could that mirror have been the portal for Mr. Badder? Perhaps. Being the age that she was when all of this happened, Lucy forgot all about Mr. Badder. But at the age of 15, her mother told her the story, and when she heard the name Mr. Badder, the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. I mean, if I had hairs on the back of my neck, they'd probably be stood on end too. Wow, that was a genuinely spooky tale. There was spooky music and everything. I'm spooked. Are you spooked? Would you like to hear more spooky tales? Like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Happy Halloween and stay spooky.